Welcome to Declares Delight for Life. It's about life, where we share our experience, strength, and hope to help others so they have a better understanding. Thank you.
Hello, Andrea.
Hi, Pauline. Glad to meet you. And welcome to Declares Delight for Life. It's about life, sharing your experience, strength, and hope. Would you like to introduce everybody for the audience and such? I would appreciate it.
Oh, sure. Hi, I am Pauline Morris. I'm an anesthetist, or as you guys would say across the pond, an anesthesiologist.
Okay.
And I'm also a personal development and career coach. And I coach doctors, and my forum is called Doctors Caring for Doctors. And I also coach non-clinicians in my Heart, Mind, and Moxie group. And it's great to be here with declutterers because that's part of what I do as a coach. I help people declutter their minds. It's not just about your physical space. They work together, right? Your physical space and your mind. Yeah, Andrea, is that
Well,
right?
let's start back to your childhood and, whatever you feel comfortable with sharing or anything else like that, as far as your childhood and things you overcame and, what brought you to this point, for the audience and sharing your experience, strength, and hope. And with that, I'm going to let you take it away.
Wow, Andrea, I know you're an amazing lady because you reached out to me on LinkedIn and I looked at you and I thought, yeah, this is a lady worth knowing. And clearly I was right. So it's great to be here with you. It's great to be on your podcast. So what about Pauline Morris? Okay, so Pauline Morris was born in Barbados. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know where that is, that's in the Caribbean, the West Indies. And it's a beautiful place. It's a tiny little island. It's 166 square miles, so it's really tiny. And I was raised there in a Catholic family. And life over there is relatively conservative. We enjoy the sun, the sea, and the sand, and good food. And I had an enjoyable childhood, except for the constrictions that you're placed upon. I mean, we're talking about in the early 70s, where being I used to say I was poor, but when I grew up, I realized what it meant to be poor. We weren't really poor, but we certainly weren't rich. There were holes in the floor and holes in the ceiling, but we had beds to sleep in and food to eat. We were never hungry, so we weren't really poor. We just weren't rich. But when you grow up in that society and you're Black and you're female, there are a lot of assumptions made for you, and there are a lot of decisions made about your life path that don't really include you. And what people's expectations are of you are limited by their own thoughts and beliefs around the fact of what you look like and what gender you were. So I struggled because I didn't fit into those nice, neat little labels. And I was considered a troublemaker, and I was considered rude, and I was always in trouble because I wasn't a quiet little girl who just did what she was told. I asked too many questions. I got in trouble at home. I got in trouble at school. And when people didn't give me answers, I tried to find them myself, and that also caused trouble for me. So although my childhood was fun, it created a lot of limiting beliefs in me about who I was and what I could achieve and where I could go in my life. And then an interesting thing happened. I got a bit fed up, and I went off the rails from the good little Catholic family a bit. And I was then 17 and pregnant. So I had now committed the first and last crime ever committed in the whole wide world. And all those limitations that I had shrunk even more. So I had this situation where I was already limited in what was offered to me what I could try to, and with all the barriers to things I could achieve. And now I'd done this horrible, horrible, horrible thing. People just created this dominion over my life and over the life of my child. This is who you're going to be. This is what you're going to do. And we're not going to let you do or be anything different. I lost pretty much all of my friends. Um, there were members of my family who were very, very unkind to me. And I wouldn't say, they weren't necessarily unkind to my daughter, but they didn't embrace her with loving care. And, this is my relative. It was almost like she was my punishment. But this is where things started to change for me. And it was the foundation of the life that I came to live as a doctor, an entrepreneur, an educator, and a coach. I had decisions to make about myself, and I decided that I was not going to let these people decide what's going to become of me. And now this other person, this other human being, whose welfare I was now responsible for. Now, I didn't do it all by myself. My grandmother was an amazing practical woman. And, she used to say, it's only young people who have babies. That was her opinion on the matter. My mother she struggled a little bit more. My father pretty much turned his back, but my stepfather, he stood up, he stood with me, he stood with my baby, and he was the father figure in my life from the age of about 18 onwards. And the good things that happened to me, and we all carry innate abilities and talents within ourselves. And you can't let the negativity and the negative energy and the resentment and the fixed mindset of others push you down and take you to dark places where you don't need to be, where you're not supposed to be, where you weren't made to be. And I opened up my heart and I opened up my mind, and I always knew that this was not it. This was not the end. This was just the beginning. And what that did for me was, if you, I don't consider myself a religious person, but I definitely consider myself a spiritual person. And I do believe in a God. My God doesn't have a name. There's no he, she, there's no it, that it's an entity called God. And that entity that surrounds us with all the goodness that there is in the world, if you allow yourself to be the person that you're supposed to be, that brings all this positive energy to you. So I lost a whole bunch of people in my life, some of whom have come back into my life, and I gained a whole bunch of other people. People turned up in places that I didn't know there would be places for them to turn up from. And those people came and they gave me hope and they gave me encouragement and they took care of me and they helped take care of my child. And when I say help take care, I literally mean take care. Like, I had a friend who turned up from nowhere who used to come take her to church every Sunday. I had another friend who turned up who used to help me with her hair. I had another friend who, well, we went to the same school, but we weren't friends. But she was the one who ended up taking me to the hospital when I was in labor. People just came out of the woodwork. I met this wonderful lady when I was selling encyclopedias, a pediatrician. And I said to her, you know what, I want to be a doctor. And you know what, that when my daughter was born, she spent the next 12 years, because after my daughter was 12, we moved to the UK. She spent 12 years taking care of my daughter for free. She never charged me a single penny. And that was even before I was even in medical school. She had that faith in me, and that faith in me, which I didn't recognize at the time, spurred me on. So, this is where the heart, mind, and moxie comes from, because I learned very early on in life, if you open your heart and you keep an open mind, the moxie comes, the resilience comes, the ability to move and flex and change. All of that comes to you. And when it comes to you, you give it back and you give it back, and whatever you give back, you get back tenfold, you get back more. And I've seen that in my personal life, I've seen that in my professional life, I've seen that in my business. And it's really it's really such an exciting time in my life now to be able to look back at these dark days and realize how powerful they were in allowing me to become the woman I am, the wife I am, the mother I am, the friend, the neighbor, the coach, the doctor that I am today. And if I didn't have those experiences and I didn't have to live through them and grow through them and just use them as a springboard for where I am today, I just wouldn't be where I am today. So yeah, so with giving you a chance to speak now, Andrea. So that's a little bit about me. Ask me anything. I'm an open book. I'm here to share my story, because if I can help one person, I've done my job.
Well, I'm the same way. One interesting fact, I was at church the other day. I had somebody recognize me who followed me. It was really off the wall. So, you know what? I know I touched at least one life. And if we can touch one life, we've made a difference in the world.
That's
And,
it.
and it's like dropping a pebble in the pond of folks out there. And, there's got to be a lot more like us out there, because in our world that's upside down right now, folks are looking for ways to have something different. I like to call us oddballs. We're oddballs. I like the term oddball because we don't fit into the square peg.
No,
You
yeah, we're the square
know,
peg in the round hole. Yeah,
no,
definitely.
and just a little interesting fact: 15 years ago, I was 494 pounds, and
Wow.
yeah, and I go to a 12-step program for that. So I believe in recovery, and I believe God is a good orderly direction, and that ego is easing God out. So those are some acronyms I go by, because it sounds like talk about your humility, and how you came to that kind of humility, and how much that played out in your life, and in ways that you were able to give back, and your passions, any other passions you have in your life that give you fulfillment. Would you feel free to share those?
Yeah. Loads. And it's interesting. I'll go back a little bit to what you said about the oddball thing and the square peg in the round hole. It's so interesting how that comes out in different aspects of your life. And you are quite right. Obviously, everything didn't happen all at the same time. I didn't have my daughter at 17 and suddenly became enlightened. That's not what happened at all. This is a process of years and years and years and years and years. And my daughter is nearly 30 now, and I'm still growing and I'm still finding things out about myself and the world and how I fit in it. But the thing that never occurred to me until not until very recently is the whole square peg in the round hole. And I kid you not, it's probably within the last really 5 years that I've realized that in spite of all of this growth that I'd been going through for the last 2 decades, I was still trying to fit myself into that circle, that round hole, because again, because of some of that was my own limiting beliefs and my own value systems that were given to me when I was growing up, and some of that was fear, not wanting to be picked on as being different. And part of that as well was also not feeling that I had the right to be different, because as a doctor, we all follow the same path, and you're expected to follow the same path, and you're expected to do the same things, and you're expected to behave the same way. And oddballs are not really very well tolerated. They used to be 50 years ago when they were all men. But, as a woman, you come into what is still essentially a very male dominated world. And you find yourself still trying not to make people uncomfortable in your presence. It's your problem that they've got a problem with you. You've got to fix something. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a believer in self-reflection, and looking back and thinking, well, how did that situation go, and could I have handled it differently, and what have I learned, and what will I do next time? But the values that I've come to embrace for myself personally, that I've decided means everything to me, includes integrity and compassion. Now, as a doctor, that fits into my professional life beautifully. Nobody argues with that. Oh yes, you must be, you must have integrity, and you must be compassionate to care for your patients safely and legally and ethically and morally. But there was a problem with the compassion, and I'll circle back to that. And the third one, my third value was adventure. And that was a problem. And that was my problem from the time I was a child. And I've only come to realize that in the first couple of years, that spirit of always wanting to know more, do more, go somewhere else, see something else, ask questions, learn, give it a go, have a try, that is something that makes people really uncomfortable, because what's familiar is comfortable. And that's something that I learned that has helped me significantly as a coach as well. Understanding that people don't want to be different. They want to fit in. They don't want, it's hard to be true to yourself because you don't want to be that oddball, right? But I've replaced that term of the oddball with that spirit of adventure. Okay. And it's a very exciting time in my life for me now, because I'm really truly starting to embrace who I am, and that spirit of adventure that had been compressed and held in check for so long because of what I was taught, what I thought I knew was right, and the profession that I went into. And it's really interesting how my second value of compassion kind of falls aside a little bit, even within my own profession, because we expect healthcare professionals to be compassionate, right? We expect them to be compassionate to their patients and their patients' relatives. But this is the reason why Doctors Caring for Doctors came about. We're not compassionate to ourselves. We don't love ourselves. We don't care for ourselves. And I'm very well aware that this is not a problem just for doctors alone. But for us, in that high octane, high stress environment where we're continuously on this hamster wheel of performing and achieving and going to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, when you are constantly living in the future, not being mindful in the present, not caring for yourself, you cannot then care for your patients. You have to put your own oxygen mask on first. You can't pour from an empty cup. And this is something that we as a people, just people, we need to learn to take care of ourselves. And when you learn to take care of yourselves, that understanding of who you are and what you value comes into play. And that's how you get out of the toxic relationships. That's how you get, you stop being a hoarder. And you can tell me how you feel about this, Andrea. This is how you go from 400. You suddenly realize that you are important, you are special, and you are worthy of care and love and attention. And the attention and love and care that we as physicians give to our patients, we have to start giving it to ourselves, and we have to start giving it to the healthcare community. And now COVID has brought that really to the fore, because so many healthcare professionals have just been sort of ticking along, coping with whatever life was throwing at them. And COVID has just teetered so many of us over the brink. It's not funny. So I know I circled back and I didn't answer your question about other fulfilling things in my life, but I really felt the need to talk about this oddball thing and this idea of not embracing who you are. And when I hear you speak and you talk about what you've been through and how essentially what you've done is learn to love yourself and care for yourself, it's a very powerful story. And I really appreciate you and what you're doing and sharing it with the rest of the world. So I'll take a breath now. and then I'll answer the question on fulfillment
Well,
after you
a
say,
little
after you
more
say
about me.
something.
This past year, I got rid of a battering relationship. I got rid of 18 years of, let's say, I was in and out of psych hospitals and all sorts of things. And I found myself in a position like, what am I doing with myself? Once I got out of the relationship, I says, you know what, even though it was a trying year and dealing with financial, emotional, physical, so many different things, it was such a learning lesson. I've learned out of it that I'll be very honest, this business after 2 years was almost dead. I brought it back 9 months ago. I have two Filipino workers who work with me that are awesome. I let my gut, I'll give you a question on gut. As far as that gut is what guides me. I don't read a bunch of business books. I do listen to certain folks, but the whole thing is you know this was hard work, but also realizing that I had to listen to my heart, not my head. And by listening to my head, that got me in trouble a lot. And just one other fact, I also found a treatment for my different things I deal with called TMS. um, Treatment is something new that's come out that is non-invasive. And as far as medications and stuff, it could end 25 years of dealing with this. And I start next week. So we create opportunities, possibilities, and action puts those into belief, and dreams come true. But you got to put your best foot forward. And I think you understand that point as far as that's concerned. I'm hoping to put this in a contextual, format for you, that, your passions, not just for yourself, but other folks. And I'll go ahead and let you circle around back to that one question after. I just think putting things in contextual perspective helps our audience understand things a lot better. So go
Yeah,
ahead.
definitely. And so yeah, so the question on what other things fulfill me, that was the other question you asked. That's right, yeah?
Yes.
That was it. Okay. So aside from what I do as a coach and a physician, so for me personally, I spend a lot more time doing things that I enjoy. I spent about 20 years of my life, well, more. I'll say I spent about 20 years of my life just trying to be the best and better. And wherever I was, I needed to do something else. And I neglected myself a lot. I neglected all of the things that I enjoyed. And where I find fulfillment is in listening to what my body tells me, in listening to what my heart tells me. And I'm very much with you on that. I don't often second guess myself. My grandmother used to say, when your mind tells you to do a thing, do it. Don't do, and I've sort of kept that. The very first thought you have in your head is probably the right one. you know um Obviously that can have its own connotations, because there's a difference between your intuition and your emotion. There's a difference between listening to your intuition and reacting to your emotional state. That's two different things. So for our audience, be careful with that one. A lot of the times what we call our intuition is our emotional state, and it usually is there. It tries to protect us. It doesn't really do that. It tries to protect us and it does that by keeping the fear alive. When you make a decision based on an emotional moment, often that emotion is often fear and anger. It's often a negative emotion. But you can make wrong decisions in happy moments too. But again, I digress. So it comes back to doing what my heart feels, what my body feels. And, I used to lie in bed and think, oh, you're being so lazy, you need to get out of bed, because that was a value that was taught to me when I was a child. When the cock crows, you should be out of bed, you should be being productive, you should be doing something. And I really struggled with just allowing myself to rest physically. So something I really enjoy now is, and obviously I can't do it every day because I have a job and you've got responsibilities. But when I can, I really enjoy those few moments when I first open my eyes and I don't do anything else but just stay there with my own thoughts. That's something that's really important to me. And whatever those thoughts are, I let them run. I try not to hold on to them, but I let them come. And some of my best ideas have come in that moment of time. So a big part of fulfillment for me is finding time for me and doing the things that I enjoy. You know, spending time with my family, walking the dog, going out into the garden. I always had a little bit of a creative streak, but again, growing up as a little black girl who wasn't rich, and you don't get encouraged to be creative. You got to be practical. You got to do maths and science, and you're not going to do anything too important with that. You can, don't have too many aspirations, but you can't be a singer or an actress or a writer. You can't do things like that because it's frivolous and willy nilly, and it's all fluff. You need to do something solid so that you can be a good 9 to 5 job. And that was the road I went down. So although I enjoyed the arts, I didn't really get to spend time enjoying them. So now, and as an adult, when I honor my own values, and I make that decision to do that, I find creative outlets. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a singer, I'm not a painter, but I do enjoy interior design, and that was something. And I managed to turn that into a little side business. But mostly I just make nice things for my friends and family for their birthday and Christmas. But that allowed me to enjoy my creative side. It was something I stumbled upon. I didn't know it was something that I would enjoy. And it happened when we bought our first home and we didn't have a lot of money and it needed lots of stuff doing to it. So I got online and I started learning how to put up wallpaper and, things like that. And then I realized I really enjoy it. So what I do now, because I can only rearrange the house so many times, one of my favorite things is to go to charity shops. I think you call them in America the Goodwill shops. And I buy old things, tables, chairs, lamps, whatever, and I upcycle them. And, that brings me a lot of joy working with my hands, taking something old and giving it new life, and then being able to give that to somebody as something very personal. Because a lot of the times when I upcycle the furniture, I upcycle the furniture with a person in mind. I may not know that person, but when I see the piece of furniture, it's almost like the piece of furniture tells me what it needs to look like, what it should look like, what it could look like now. It's lived that life and now it's got another life to live. So I really enjoy doing that. The usual things. I enjoy reading, going to the gym, yoga. I really love watching movies, especially with my daughter. We love a good horror flick. We've got one to finish off tonight. I love a good horror flick. Um, so yeah, I spend a lot more time taking care of me. And what I've found is when I spend that time taking care of me, that's when I have the energy to take care of everybody else. That's when I feel energized and I have more to give and I'm not feeling, really blah. And then, of course, we're all human. I have those days when I just don't feel like it. I feel a bit, and I listen to my body. I suffer. I suffer. I have a problem with my joints. I haven't got a diagnosis for it. Nobody knows what it is. It doesn't appear to be arthritis, but I get some really terrible joint pain sometimes. So I've learned to listen to my body, and part of that seems to be sometimes I'm more tired than I think I should be. And 10 years ago I would fight that. I would be like, no, 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 you got to get out of bed, you got to study, you got to wash, you got to cook, you got to clean, you got to do whatever it is that I thought I needed to do. And now I actually spend a lot of time going, okay, no, no, you actually need to rest, listen to your body, get the rest. And when you feel better, you'll be able to do twice as much. So don't fight it and just listen to your body, listen to what your heart and mind is telling you, and don't feel guilty about that, because guilt was a huge, huge thing for me. I was always guilty when I wasn't achieving, producing, being efficient. And I've come to realize that actually you need that downtime. Nobody runs their car 24 hours a day. Nobody runs, the television 24 hours. We don't run a piece of machine. And when we do have machines that we run 24 hours a day, we take jolly good care of them. So why can't we, take the same way you turn the laptop off, you turn the car off, you turn the Hoover off, you turn the TV off. It's okay to turn yourself off sometimes. It's really okay. And so fulfillment for me is often a lot of little things. There's nothing big. I haven't climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm not a triathlete. I don't base jump. I don't do anything extraordinary. Sometimes, I just sit quietly for 10, 15 minutes and that's me feeling fulfilled. So yeah, that's the answer to that question.
One of my greatest things I enjoy doing is meditation. I actually stopped doing it, and I realized that it was one thing that I needed to keep doing. Just 20 minutes a day kept the anxiety at bay. And it's kind
Mm,
of like, it's like, oh, this is simple. Doesn't cost anything, and it doesn't
yeah.
require pills. And I
Yes.
that one of the greatest things I'm looking forward to with the new treatment is getting rid of the old and opening myself to more, because next year my church want me to go to Israel and get myself in the right mindset. And just like you, I deal with pain in the joints and tiredness and stuff. Have you ever heard of fibromyalgia?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
You might check that out, because just having studied a lot upon health and what it is, and been a health nut now for a long time, and realizing especially mental health, that goes part of it, is that stress too, and also um you know somewhat of what you're describing is fibromyalgia. I've read up on it, and I had a friend who had it. So you might check that out. I'm not diagnosing you, but I'm just,
Mm-hmm.
I just call it, everything I do is on experience. I don't have any theory behind what I have, just actual experience and watching folks and seeing how things go. Looking at all these different aspects of your life, what is one thing in your life that is the most fulfilling for you, that gives you the most joy, the most peace, the most love, kindness, and compassion, not just for yourself, but others?
I can't honestly say there's any one thing. For me, it feels like a puzzle. Every single piece is important, and one piece is no more important than the other, because no matter what piece is missing, the picture isn't complete. I can't honestly say there is one thing. And all these pieces came together over time. And, as I learn more and I grow more and I understand myself more, I'm sure I'll realize that the picture is bigger than what I'm seeing right now. And I'm sure I'll find that there are pieces that I didn't realize, you don't know what you don't know, that I didn't realize were missing. And they'll slot themselves into place. And I'm confident that's going to happen, because I, I, I feel that openness in my heart and in myself to allow those to allow myself to go down the path where I may not know what I'm looking for, but I'll know when I find it. So, I mean, I find a lot of fulfillment in my family and my friends. They are my foundation, and my foundation comes from my spiritual self. So I have to say, if there's one fulfilling thing, it has to be my spiritual self, and honoring that. And I had this conversation with my son-in-law a couple of days ago, and he said he was talking about your values are the things that you will do when nobody else is watching, right? And for me, I think it's the spirituality of it that must be the one fulfilling thing for me, because that spirituality and that belief in God and the universe and Mother Nature and the next human being, that is what has brought me everything. Don't get me wrong, my grandmother used to tell this story about the woman who used to, you have to put it into context. This is the days before washing machine, and like I said, we weren't rich, and we used to wash clothes every weekend in this huge galvanized pail, and all the families did this. And the story my grandmother gave, she was a very practical woman, and she worked very hard, and she was incredibly intelligent. And the story she used to tell me was, the woman sat in front of this pail of clothes, and she just kept praying, God, help me to wash these clothes, help me to get these clothes washed. But she never actually picked up an item of clothes, then washed it. And then the whole day went by, the sun set, and she cursed God and said, I was praying to you to help me wash these clothes, and you didn't help me. So I'm not saying that if you're spiritual, you don't actually have to do anything. You have to do. You have to go out there. You have to give your heart. You have to talk to people. You have to be willing to help others. So I think what brings me the most fulfillment is making that connection within myself and my God and the universe that He's given me, and allowing my talents to be used in the way that they were intended. And again, I'm not saying that we were born with a destiny in mind and we have no choice in that. What I'm saying is that we are born whole, and you move forward constantly. You said that right at the very beginning. All these things are thrown at you and you move forward, you move through them. And there's this great fable, well, it's not a fable, it's a fact. All the things like lobsters and shrimp, they change their shells because when they grow, the shell becomes constricted, they get uncomfortable, so they have to leave the shell behind and they have to grow. And what is the catalyst for leaving that shell behind? It's the discomfort, it's the growth. So if you don't leave, if you don't feel that discomfort, if you don't have that growth, that shell that is no longer serving you, you will never leave it behind. So for me, fulfillment comes from embracing the person that you were meant to be, not the person that somebody else thought you should be, or your circumstance, or how much money you have. It's honoring the person that you are supposed to be. And for every one of us, that's going to be different. The way I affect someone's life is going to be different to the way you do, or my daughter does, or the neighbor does. But that's all part of the big picture, all part of the puzzle. And we worry a lot about being able to see the big picture and the whole puzzle and knowing where we're fitting in. And I don't think that's what we should be focusing on. We should be focusing on just being that person. When you go to bed at night and you can say to yourself, you know what, I did my best today, and tomorrow my best is going to be better.
Great. We're going to have to kind of wrap this up. So, yeah, I'd love to continue this conversation another day.
Yes, it was
I,
great.
I'd love to have you again on the podcast if you'd love to. And
Yeah, absolutely. I believe in what you're doing, and I'm happy to help and support in any way I can. And I'm very pleased to know that you'd like to see me again and hear me again. So I hope that means that I am fulfilling the person that I'm supposed to be, because I can resonate with you and your audience. I hope that's what I'm doing. So
well,
yes, thank you. I would love to come again.
sharing your experience, strength, and hope is what we're about. When we all share our experience strength as a collective, we can learn a lot. And if there were three takeaways that you could give our audience, what would be those three takeaways in summary as far as things are going?
Um, Learn to listen to other people and understand that sometimes people can see what you can't. Always take feedback and information with an open heart and mind. See it as a gift. Sometimes you'll love a gift and you'll keep it. Sometimes you'll think, this person doesn't even know who I am, and bin it. Sometimes you may keep that gift and put it down for a later time. But the thing you don't do with a gift is resent it. Always take it with appreciation. The second thing I would say is be willing to look inwards. And I know that's very hard. And people spend a lot of time being busy because it's very difficult to sit quietly with yourself. But if you want to be that person, if you want that job, that partner, that life, that house, that money, that relationship, whatever it is that you want for yourself and your loved ones in your life, that starts with looking inwards and being willing to be flexible and to change and have growth mindset. The third thing I would say is always try to be grateful. When you are having those really, really awful days and you don't know what you can or cannot do, find 5 things to be grateful for. And it can be as little as I am inhaling and exhaling, because as a doctor, I can tell you there are people who can't do that for themselves. Find something to be grateful for, that you have a bed, that you have food to eat, that you have a husband, a friend, a wife, a plant, a cat, your favorite chair hasn't broken. Find something to be grateful for. So those are the 3 things. Learn to take a gift, learn to accept gifts, learn to look inwards and grow, and always find something to be grateful for.
Thank you for coming to Claire's Delight for Life. It's about life. I hope you enjoyed our podcast as much as I did, and I hope you have a great day. I also want to let you know that we are on the platforms of Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, and Pinterest. And I would gladly check you out and check these out, learn about what we're doing and great things that you can learn. And also check out our website, Declares Delight for Life. It's Declares Delight for Life, DECLUTTERS Delight, DELIGHT for FOLIFE.com. I know that was a little bit long to spell out, but what I would also love for you to check out and share this information with others and share them about the podcast, because it has great value, because you can learn about the experience and strength of others. And that experience and strength of others can go within you. And I would also love you to check out our books, Clutter to Declutter, 28 Days to Declutter Your Mind, Declutter Your Mind for Now. And if you think about it, in the next 2 months, we're going to have another book out, The Secrets to Overcoming Depression, Anxiety, and Stress. And I know for a lot of you out there, these are things that you can address. And we have these, and they were done from the heart, from me to you. And over the next couple months, you will see things out also in audio and video with these books. And check it out. I hope these would be of great value, because that's what we want to give you, great value and love, kindness, compassion, and hope and love and truth. Thank you. And I appreciate everything and who you are. And thank you.